Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Don Daniel, founder of P.I.L.L Method International. This is how to pay off mortgages in 7 years. We're going to be talking about how the mortgage industry, the lending industry, how they do their math, and how we don't have to pay all of that interest. Now, real estate investors for years, have told me, say, Don, why are you worried about paying off a 6% loan? Number one, let's get this straight. The P.I.L.L method is not about paying off debt fast. Okay, let's get that straight. We're about paying off debt cheap. All right. So if you're going to borrow money, why pay the banks retail? I mean, every single dime of what they're asking when you could borrow the money so much cheaper. I mean, listen, people out there doing couponing. They're looking for their discounts. They're trying to, when they're trying to negotiate a deal, they're trying to get the best deal possible. But when it comes to borrowing money and the math involved that the banks are using, why aren't we studying that? We just feel, for some reason, that we have to give the bank all the money that they're asking for because we don't know how to do it any differently. I'm saying, yes, you can do it differently. But here's the thing. If it's true, all right, because I know by investing, you can make 15, 18, 20%. If you're a real estate investor, you can do phenomenally well real estate investing. And if it's true, do I want to pay off a 6% loan, take my money in order to save 6% over here when I could take that same money and make 18 and 20 and sometimes even 30% over here? Why should I do that? Okay, so let's get that part straight. At the P.I.L.L method, and P.I.L.L method stands for prepayment of principal, isolating the principal amount, leverage, and liquidity. All right. You want to do what's optimal in all phases of your finances. Okay. So when it comes to saving money, you want to take your money and save the most you can with it. And at the same time, you want to invest your money so that you can make more money with it. So who's doing the math, right? Trying to figure that out. So is there a point, ladies and gentlemen, doing anything, is there a point where you can say more is too much? Okay. Putting in, when does more become too much? So putting money into investing and putting money into saving interest is going to be so very important in what you're doing. So ladies and gentlemen, let's do this. Let's talk about how the real estate investors are doing the math. Start inviting some people in. If you're in Clubhouse, invite some people in. If you are watching us online, invite some people in, because I'm getting ready to show what's happening here on live. I'm going to show you the numbers as to why the experts are wrong about how mortgages actually work. So if you have a question or a comment, come up to the stage. But you do want to, if you come into the room late, you want to hear this from the beginning. So let me go ahead and get my, my information here. Get that so that you guys can, I'm putting the link in the chat. So we're going to copy that. I'm going to put the link in the chat so you can see the link. All right, let's copy and paste. Copy this and paste it here. There we go. I'm putting the link in the chat for you guys so that if you want to see what we're doing, when you want to see these numbers, and you do want to see these numbers, all right? Because if these numbers were correct in how to look at a mortgage, then, man, we're doing the wrong thing. We're looking at the wrong thing. So let's take a look at the math and let's see what's happening. All right, so we're going to put our screen on here. Share the screen. There we are. All right. So if you guys want to see this, you definitely want to do that. So we're going to add that. All right. So there we are. And I want to use this. There we go. All right. So let's go. Let's take a look at it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm putting on here a $350,000 mortgage, $350,000. Okay. At 6%. $350,000 at 6%. I'm using that because it's an easy number. Okay. $350,000 at 6%. So here's what the experts are saying. Why pay this off? Because all you're paying is 6%. And anytime you prepay, anytime you do anything to upset this apple cart, all you're saving is 6%. But I need you to take a look at this, how this loan breaks down. Every single month, they're allowed to charge you on this loan at the beginning. Look at these interest payments: $1,700, $1,748, $1,746 each month. Look at that, $1,744. That's a lot of doggone money going out every single month you're on this property. All right. And in the first year, look how much goes to interest: $20,883. Okay, is a lot of money. Now, here's what the I'm going to break down for you. Now, you're going to need to take some notes. Okay, you're going to need to take some notes. So I'm putting a calculator on the screen, and so we're going to look at what we're using here. Now, the magic number that the bank uses to figure out how much interest you are paying if you have a 6% mortgage for 30 years is not 6%. All right. What they do is they take 1/12 of the interest rate, which is 0.005%, 1/12 of the interest rate, the monthly rate, to figure out how much interest you will pay on this loan. So let's take a look at that. So we're going to take the 6%, 0.06. We divide that number by 12. Okay. And we get 0.005. 0.005. Let's go ahead and start inviting some more people in here. All right. And so that we can share this room. All right. Go ahead and start inviting some folks in. 0.005 is what we're using as a multiplier. You want to bring out your own calculator. And if you want to see this, go to, on a secondary device, also go over to YouTube so that you can see this. Now they're going to take that 0.005 and multiply it by 350,000. So we're going to multiply this by $350,000. All right. When we do that, it comes to 1,750. Do you see here? This is the interest payment, the very first interest payment. Now, your total payment on this mortgage is $2,098.43. But out of that $2,098.43, $1,700 of those dollars goes to interest, and only $348.43 goes to pay down your loan. Out of over $2,000. Look at that. Isn't that pitiful? Only $348.43 goes to principal, paying down the loan. So what happens next? We take the $348 and subtract it from the $350,000 that we owe. So we owe $350,000. Okay. We subtract the $348.43, subtract 348.43, and we get $349,651.57. That's right here on this line. Okay. 349,651.57. Now, the next month, what happens? They take their magic number, which is 0.005. And how do we get that again? Again, we take the interest rate and divide it by 12. That is the magic number that they're using each month. So when they do that, we go 349,651.57. So now we're going to multiply that by 0.005, and it equals 1748.257. And because it comes to 2.257, you have to round up the 5 to 6. So it's 1748.26. And if we look here, the second interest payment is 1748.26. So now that's going to be our background to what's really happening with these numbers, right? What's really happening with the numbers. So if we do that, then the programs, the experts are saying the real estate investing experts saying by understanding this loan is at 6%. Well, listen, Don, if you take that number, all right, and $350,000, here's what they're doing: $350,000, and multiply that by 6%, 0.06. It comes to $21,000. And if you take that and divide it by 12, you get 1750. So the next month, if you take that 300, and so you subtract your $348.43. So the next month you would take 349,000, okay? 349,000, okay? 651.57, and do it again. Multiply it by 0.06. It comes to 20,997.0942. You take that and you divide that again by 12, and you get this. All right, now 1748.26. So you get the same number, but here's what they're saying. If you do that, Don, what if you prepay? Watch this now. What if I were to prepay $350.17? Here's what we're saying at the P.I.L.L method. If you're looking at this loan, if you make this first payment, all right, and you prepay $350.17, at the P.I.L.L method, we're saying you drop down to $349,301 immediately, and you skip over this $1,748.26. That's what we're saying here. That's not what the real estate investors that I spent 2 days with, all right, they're saying it's not that. You're not saving $1,748.26. You're not saving that. You're only saving 6%. Watch this. This is what they're telling me. This is what they showed me. Okay. So if we start out at 350,000, we prepay this. Okay. We're going to get our numbers here. Now, what I'm going to do is prepay the 350,017 and get to here. All right. And then we're going to do and then I'm going to show you what they showed me. Now you want to write these numbers down because they will not stay on the screen. Write these numbers down. All right. Because I'm going to write them down because so that we can remember what we're doing. So we start out with, let me clear this out. All right. So now, if I do that, so now we're going to take our $348, all right, $348.43. We subtract it. Here's our new number. Okay. 0.005 multiplied by 349,651. Okay, so we're going to multiply that by 349,651. So we're going to multiply that by 349,651.57. Okay, equals 1748 1748.25. All right, so that's what that is the amount of interest that we get. All right, so let's write that down. Okay, 1748.25. Write that down. Now, what I'm going to do is we're going to prepay this, which means we're not going to, oh, I'm sorry. I should have done it by the 350. Sorry, take that back. Okay. We're going to get, we're going to take the 350, all right, and multiply it by the 6%. We would get 1750. All right. We're going to get that number, 1750. $1,750 is that we're going to get. We're going to prepay this. Okay. So we're not going to get this number. We're going to prepay this. And so now we're working with the 349,301.40. Okay, 349,340. So if we do that, what they're saying is now multiply your 0.0, take your 6%, and multiply it by this. Okay, so let's take a look. So now we're going to take the 350, okay, 350,000. Bring up my calculator. 350,000, 350, multiply it by 6%, 0.06 equals $21,000. $21,000. That's what we get, 21,000. Now we're going to prepay this number. And then when we prepay this, so the program doesn't see this number now, not the 349,651, but the 349,301. So now we prepaid the 350. So now we have 349,301, which gives us the numbers on line 3. So now we're going to take our 6%. All right. Take our 6% and multiply it by the 349,301.40. All right. 349,301.40 times 0.06 equals 20,958.04. So let's put that down. Okay, 20,958.084. So our first number was $21,000. Okay, by 21,000. And now we're going to subtract 20,958.084. Let's delete that. Okay. All right, 0.084. So that would be 0.08. 0.08 equals $41.92. This is what because it's only 6%, ladies and gentlemen, the real estate investors are saying by prepaying $350.17. Okay. By prepaying that, you're only saving $41.92. Let's do a different. Now, does that make sense to you? Well, I'm not quite sure, Don. It seems plausible. Let's do a bigger number. Let's do $1,000. We're going to prepay $1,000 instead of that. So now I have $350,000. I know what that cost me, $1,750. All right. We know that if we take our 6%, okay, we take our 6%, 0.06, multiply it by 350,000. Let's multiply it by 350. Okay, 350 equals $21,000. We divide that by 12 so that we can get our interest cost for the month. Our interest cost for the month. We divide that by 12, we're going to get $1,750. So now we're going to prepay $1,000. Prepay $1,000. So here is my new number. So $348.43 goes to this. So I have 348.43 goes to principal. So my new principal balance is 349,651.57. Right? So if that is the case, if I pay an extra $1,000 to principal this month, then I owe 348,651.57. Does that make sense? If I put an extra $1,000 on this loan, I owe 348,651.57. So let's put that in the calculator. We're prepaying $1,000 now. All right. So now if we prepay $1,000, get this out of here. So I'm dealing with 348,000. Okay, put the right numbers in down. 348,000, 651.57. 651.57. There we go. All right, so now we're going to multiply that by 0.06. Multiply this by 0.06, which is our interest rate. We get 20,919. 20,919, 0.094. So we're going to keep the 0.09. That's what we get when we do that. So now I'm going to write that down. 20,000. Now remember, we prepaid $1,000. 20,919.09. Write that down. That's what your new number is that needs to be divided by 12 so you can get the current interest cost for that particular month. So now if you subtract that from your original number, okay? So now we had 340, we had 349, all right? 349 there. So we're going to now subtract that from our original number. Which would it be? So I was here, 349,651.57. Okay, divide that, multiply that by 6%. 0.06 equals 20,979.09. 20,979. So 20,000, I'm writing that down. 979.09. So now the experts are saying, take that, and if you prepay $1,000, your new number that you're going to get is 20,919.09. Now subtract that. Okay. This is how much interest you save when you do that. All right. Watch this. So we're going to subtract 20,919.09 equals $60. They're saying, the experts are saying, because of it's a 6% loan, if you prepay $1,000, you're only saving $60 here. Do you believe that? Do you believe that if I prepay $1,000 on this loan, all I'm saving is $60 when every single month they're charging you $1,750, $1,748, $1,746? Okay. According to the P.I.L.L method, if you prepay $1,000, look at cumulative principal. Look at cumulative principal. You prepay about $1,000. you're saving nearly $5,000 in interest, not 60. That's a huge difference. All right. Let's say we could only save this much. The interest on the line that we're knocking out. So that is a tremendous amount of money if you were to prepay $1,000. So based on that, do you see that we have a declining number here? Every single month we pay less interest, less interest, less interest. So what would happen if I put $10,000 down, ladies and gentlemen? If I can save $60, if I can only save $60 by putting down $1,000, because every time you prepay, there's less interest to save because the interest amount goes down. If I put down $10,000, then how much interest would I be saving? If I start out with 60, if I put down $10,000 using their math, how much would it be? Let's take a look. So now we're going to take a look at, now remember, my original number was based on 349,651.7. So we're going to do that math again. 349,000 because I made my regular mortgage payment. $348.43 went to principal. So here's what I have left: 349,651.57. Watch this. So according to their math, okay, 349, 651.57 times 0.06. Here's the number I'm working with: 20,979.09. Okay, that's the number I'm working with. But now we're going to prepay $10,000. We're going to, so I've just made my mortgage payment. Now I'm going to add another $10,000 to it and subtract $10,000 from this number, which would give me 339,651.57. 339,000. All right. So now we're going to take a look at what that would do. 339,651. Uh-oh. $339,651.57. Now, if I do what they're saying, take 6%, okay, multiply it by this now. I'm going to multiply this by 0.06. 0.06. It comes to 20,379. 20,379. So we have to take, so write that down. 20,379. And if we divide that by 12, that will give our current interest payment for that month. So we'll divide this by 12 just to show you. Our current interest, I did that wrong. Doggone it. Let me see here. Oh, let me do this again. See, this is the joy of doing live video. All right. So we're going to put in again 339, 651.57. Okay. And multiply that by 6%, multiply by 0.06 equals that. And so we're going to take this number and divide that by 12. So our current interest payment for that month would be $16.98. So if you're taking a look at this, okay, if you're taking a look at this, 349. So let's go down to where we will find 339 on our amortization schedule and see if we're getting an interest cost about $16.98. So we'll scroll down to where we see 339,000. 339,651. 339,006. So right around in here. All right. So do you see these two interest payments? We have 1699.77. So we'd be right around in here. Okay. Do you see how far down that is? That's line 28 on the amortization schedule. Line 28 on the amortization schedule. If we have that. So what they're saying is this. Do you see all the distance? Do you see all the interest payments we just skipped to get down to line 29? Now let's take a look at the way that I was taught to do this in a real estate seminar this past weekend. I shouldn't look at it this way. I should look at it this way. This is what they're saying. Take that number, your 349, 651, 57, all right? And do your math, come up with 20,979.09, and then you prepay $10,000, which is going to give you 339,651. Oops, delete 651.57. Okay. Now you need to be writing these numbers down, ladies and gentlemen. I see you watching this on YouTube, on Facebook, so if you have a comment, go ahead and put your comment in. So now I just prepaid $10,000 on this loan. The real estate investors that taught me this this past weekend says now multiply that by 6%. Okay, so I'm going to multiply this by 6%, 0.06, and this is what I get. 20,379. All right, 20,379. 20,379. Okay, so now I'm going to take my original number. Let me write that down so I don't lose it. 20,379.09. All right. So my original number was 20,979. 20,979.09. And my new number is 20,000 minus 20,379.09 equals $600. So here's what they're telling me, folks. If I have this number here and I prepay this loan where I'm down to 330, around 339 instead of 349, that would break me down on my amortization schedule to about here, 339,651. The closest I can get to it is 339.5, right in here. Look here. That's 27 payments gone. I've already made the first one. I'm on line 28, and they're saying all I save is $600 if I prepay $10,000. Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something. Does that look right to you? Does that look right to you? Because I'm going to show you what makes more sense to me. All right? I'm going to show you what makes more sense to me if we do this thing right. It's not $600 by any stretch of the imagination. That's all you're going to save, because all we're saving is 6%. When you amortize a loan, look what 6% actually does to this. You're going to pay back 115.839% on this loan. 115%. You're going to pay back on $350,000. You're going to pay back $405,000 in interest if you continue to make the payment to the bank every single month. What the amortization formula does to this loan is make sure that they get to charge you 1/12 of the interest rate every single month for 360 months, which turns into a huge amount of money. So if you pay them fewer times, you should be able to save a lot of money. It just makes sense. So I went online and I started, plugging in some numbers. And before that, it occurred to me that if I have an amortization schedule and I know how much interest I was supposed to pay, if I prepaid a certain amount, then I have a new number. Why don't I just figure out what the amortization schedule would be for the new number and see how much total interest I would pay on the new number and subtract the difference? Why don't I do that? And get how much interest I would save. It makes more sense to me to do that than what I've just showed you. Because if all I'm going to save, if I invest $10,000 over here, if all I'm going to save is $600, they're exactly right. I would never take $10,000 and put it on this loan if I'm only going to save $600. It doesn't make sense at all. So what really does happen? So if I take my 350 and I use the bank's math to figure out how much interest I would pay over 30 years, it comes to 405 for 3880. Okay, so now I'm going to prepay $10,000 on this loan. $10,000. So now I'm going to have a new number, $349,651.57. So now I'm going to put that into, I'm going to copy this, okay? 349,651, okay, 339,651. So I'm going to put that in my thing, 300 and what is it? I had 349,651. Now I have 339,651. 339,651.57. Now, if you want to do this on your own, this calculator that I'm using is Brett Whistle, BRETWHISSEL, and you can do this experiment on your own. All right. Now, the interest rate is still 6%, but because I put down $10,000, I don't have 360 payments here anymore. Let's figure out how many payments I do have. So we're going to take that out. Now, what is our principal and interest payment? Our principal and interest payment is $2,098.43. That's our regular payment. So we put that in, $2,098.43. $2,098.43. That's our same principal payment. So if we're paid down to here on the loan, how many payments do we have left? We have 332 payments left. Okay, by putting down $10,000, we go from 360 payments to 332. Let me put that on the screen. Okay, we have 360, and now we have 332 payments minus 332 equals 28 payments. So if I prepaid $10,000 and I showed you on the original one, it takes us down to line 28 on our schedule. Okay, line 28 on our schedule. Do you see? What I was telling you was correct. 339, about 339,000 takes us all the way down to 20. We go from payment number one down to payment number 28 on our schedule. All right. So now let's take a look at how much interest we would pay if we were paying the way the bank said to pay. We would pay $405,443.08. Let's take a look at how much interest we have left to pay now if we prepay $10,000. We're down to 357, 223.07. So doesn't it make sense that if I prepay $10,000 and I do it this way, I can subtract these two numbers and see how much interest I just saved with $10,000. Let's take a look at that. So we're going to put into our calculator the amount of interest I was supposed to pay, 405, 434.8, okay, and 80 cents. We're going to subtract our new amount because I prepaid $10,000 and we put it back into an amortization schedule. We only have 332 payments left. So now how much interest would I pay? 357. So we're going to subtract 357,000, subtract 357,000, 223.07 equals $48,211.73. That's the difference between those two numbers. So here's what I'm saying. Because I have Asperger's, when I look at this thing, it tells me I should save about $48,000. So if I'm looking at this, the original loan, okay, I'm looking at the original loan, and I could do cumulative principal and cumulative interest. Remember, by subtracting the two amortization schedules, I should save about $48,000. Let me show you an easier way to look at this to come up with almost the same amount of money saved. Okay, so do you see where I have cumulative principal here? And every month I make a payment, it adds up the amount of principal and interest. On line 3, I pay down this loan by $1,000. It cost me $5,000 in interest. If I pay it down on line 12, if I pay it down by $4,200, I pay $20,000 in interest. Do you see what I'm saying now? So if I prepay this, I shouldn't have to pay all of that. It just makes sense. So if I put $10,000 down, on this loan, okay, look here, around here, look at here, 46, 48,000. Look here, I'm in the $48,000 range already by putting down about $10,000 on this loan. Are you seeing this? Now, to me, if I put $10,000 down, I shouldn't have to give the bank 40. It's going to save me around over $40,000 in interest. Does that make sense to you? So if we subtract the two amortization schedules from each other, we get a savings of $48,000. So why are the experts telling us, don't put your money here? Because if you prepay this, you're only going to save about $600. Now, ladies and gentlemen, does that make sense to you? No wonder there's a ton of people out here on the internet, on Clubhouse, on YouTube, everywhere you go. Don't pay off your mortgage. It's a cheap mortgage. It's at 6%. And the only thing you can save is 6%. Obviously, this is not a 6% loan. When you amortize it, it turns it into 115%. And that's what they're missing, ladies and gentlemen. You put down $10,000 on this, you're going to save over $40,000 in interest with that money. Not $600, over $40,000. Any questions about what we just went over? Any questions at all? Miss Brenda, how are you doing this morning? Now, this is not going to be one of my more popular shows because there was a lot of math going on, but you need to see especially real estate investors, this is one you need to see over and over and over again and do the numbers for yourself. All right? Do the numbers for yourself and you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. All right. Do I have any questions either online? Any comments online? I see some folks here that are watching us online. Any comments? Any questions? Brenda says, good morning. Good morning, Brenda, to you. Good morning to you. All right. So any other questions about prepayment of principal and how much interest is actually saved and whether we should look at prepaying principal as a viable way of saving a lot of interest? All right. Any questions? Any comments? Did this make sense to you? If what I just did made sense to you, for everybody who's watching online, put a number 1 in the chat. Put a number 1 in the chat or in the comment section if what we just talked about makes sense. If you're still lost, put a number 5. I'm not quite getting it down. I don't quite understand it. Put a number 5 in the chat if you don't understand what we're talking about. If you're still lost, put a number 1 if what I've just showed you makes sense. Put a number 5 if you're not getting it. Okay? Let me gauge it that way. All right? Leon Earl says number 1. He's getting it. All right? Anybody else? He's watching us on YouTube. All right? Anybody else? Are you getting it or not getting it? Put a number 1 if it makes sense. Put a number 5 in if you're not getting what I'm saying. I'm saying if I put down $10,000, I should be able to skip all these interest payments because that's what's happening. If I put down $10,000 here, let's say we're going to put down $10,444, okay? We're going to put that down, prepay that. I should save around $48,000 in interest. That's what I'm saying. The experts are saying you're only going to save about $600. But if you take a look at the amortization schedule, it just stands to reason that if you can charge me interest here and I pay that, then the next time you get to charge me, I'm all the way down here. So let's ask the question this way. Let's ask it this way. If I make every single payment like the bank wants me to, how much would it cost me to pay this loan down by $10,844.66? If I pay them the $10,000 the way they want me to, will it not cost me $50,000 in interest to get to this point? If I add up all these interest payments, you better believe it will. Then how does it make sense that if I prepay the $10,000, I can prepay $10,444 and a penny. I can prepay that, and it only saves me $600. How in the world does that make sense? If I pay it, I pay 50 grand. If I don't pay it, how come I'm not saving $48,000? How come I'm not saving that? I couldn't listen, folks. It boggles the mind. There are a lot of investors that are teaching this right now, that you don't save a whole lot of money when you prepay. Why pay off when you could take money and make 18%? So let's do the math here. If I can save $48,000 by prepaying $10,000, let's do the math. All right. What is my return on investment if I can prepay $10,000 and save $48,000? So we're going to take our results, the 48,000, divide it by 10,000, and then we move our decimal point 2 places to the right once we do that. So we're going to divide this by, this is our savings between the 2 amortization schedules, between this one and this one. Here's our new amortization schedule down to $339,651. We only have 332 payments left as opposed to 360 payments over here. This is our new number, okay? And this number, total interest paid on the loan over 30 years, would be 357. Over here would be 405. So how much interest did we just save by prepaying? If we prepay, what we're saying is that the difference is 48,000 to 11. Let's divide that by the $10,000 we put in. Divide it by 10,000 equals 4.82. Ladies and gentlemen, you move that decimal place 2 places to the right, that's a 482% return on my money. 482%. If I prepay 10,000, that means I don't have to pay out 48,000. You see, there's an old saying, a penny saved is a penny earned. I learned this weekend, it's a penny saved is like 2 pennies earned. How is that, Don? If I save a penny, how is it? See, if you don't pay it out, don't you have the ability to now invest that money? So if I can pay this loan down by 10,000 and not pay the bank 48,000, and if I keep track of the money that I didn't pay, I could take that money and then invest it. Now, if I pay it to the bank, if I pay the bank 48,000, I can't also invest it. Does that make sense to you? What I'm getting at is this information today, even though it doesn't seem to be my most popular show, it's the most important information you'll ever hear on investing is this right here. To challenge those who are saying, don't prepay a 6% loan, take that money and invest it over here. Here's what I'm saying. I am not saying don't invest. I think you should invest. I think you should try to invest every single dime you can invest. But don't sleep on the fact that when a mortgage is new, by prepaying, you can get a fantastic return on your money that's guaranteed. If I put $10,000 here, that's a guaranteed result of saving $48,000. So the honest is, well, yeah, $48,000, but you got to keep the loan 30 years to realize that 48,000. No. Here's what I'm saying. Okay. You don't have to keep the loan 30 years to realize that. So if I was here on this loan, watch this, ladies and gentlemen. If I'm here on this loan and I make this payment, that's my very first payment, and then I prepaid $10,000, I skip all these interest payments. All right. And I'm down, I prepaid 10,000. I'm all the way down to here. Okay. I'm already on line 28 of my schedule. I just skipped all the payments between here and here. How much? So have I paid down to where I owe about $339,000? Have I paid down to there? Okay. I went from here to here. I went from there to there. What if I kept this loan for 28 months? If I kept the loan for 28 months, would I pay the bank $48,000 in interest? Yes or no? Okay. Leon Earl says, no math genius. But here's what he says. Let me put that on the screen, ladies and gentlemen. He says, I'm no math genius, but $48,000 is a bit higher than $600. You better believe it. You better believe that. Okay. So ladies and gentlemen, if I prepay the 10 grand and I'm all the way down to here by prepaying 10,000, I save I get to this very same place that I would get to if I paid the bank every month for 28 payments. If I pay the bank every month for 28 payments, I'm down to here and it costs me that. Well, if I prepay it and get there in 1 month, I get to the very same place, but I didn't have to give them $48,000 to get to the same place. So if I sold the house the next day to get to the same place, do I have the same amount of equity, the $10,000, but I don't have to pay them the interest to get to here? I still save $48,000 to get to the exact same place on the amortization schedule, or the exact same place on how much money I would owe. Why does it make sense to anybody? Why does it make sense to anybody that before I can start calculating my interest savings, before I can start calculating my profits, I have to keep this loan for 28 months, pay the $10,000 the way the bank wants me to, and then pay them $48,000 to get here, and then I sell it, and now I can get my $10,000 out. But how much did it cost me to get my $10,000 out? I can only sell it after 28 months, and it cost me 48 grand to do it. Why couldn't I, if I was going to sell it here and still still owe $339,555, why can't I just get there in 1 month and then sell it? I still get the $10,000 in equity. I still get the $10,000 in equity, but this way I get it in 1 month, not 28 months. Folks, that's all I've been saying all along. It just makes sense. Why is it that there are certain folks that are so hell-bent on making sure we stay in these mortgages for as long as we can? Now, even if you're now, I have some real estate investors here. Brenda's a real estate investor. She will tell you there's absolutely no reason, no benefit to stay in this loan all this time, give the bank all of that interest, when I can figure out what is the smallest amount to pay to save a ton of interest over here, and I still get the same principal pay down. I still get the same potential equity, but it doesn't cost me all of that interest to get it. Ladies and gentlemen, we started this thing an hour ago. Let me put my link to the top of the page. Let me put my link up here. If what I'm saying is interesting to you, whether you're listening to the replay or not, listen, I need you to save. I need you to get this thing out here. I need you to share this, whether it's on Clubhouse or on YouTube or Facebook or whatever. I need you to share this with everybody. We're going to pin my link to the top. ICE 10K, the number 10, the letter K.com, right? ICE10K.com. That's my link. If what I'm telling you, sorry, I did it wrong. ICE 10K.com. Done. There we go. There it is. All right, ICE10K.com. That's how you can get a hold of us. Why don't you become an affiliate with us and help me get this information out? Okay? Become an affiliate. Click on this link and click on where it says become an affiliate. All right? And get added to the list. We're going to be doing an affiliate training here on the 12th. Okay? An affiliate training on the 12th. That's next week. Next Tuesday. We're going to be sending out information to you. So sign up as an affiliate, and then your email will be added to the list so you can get the emails to sign up for the affiliate training. People are teaching what I just talked about. They're teaching this to individuals so people can stay in these loans a lot longer and pay all this interest when they could be saving it. So you need a balanced approach. You need to save money and interest, and you need to take some other money and make money in interest by investing it. But ladies and gentlemen, absolutely do not overlook what is actually happening when you prepay, because you can save a lot of interest if you have the right amount of money so that you can give the bank back. Here's what you're actually doing. Okay. Let me break it down to you this way. I can give the bank $10,000 the way they want me to and pay them over $48,000 to do it. I could do that. Or I can choose I borrowed the money. I can choose how to pay them back in a way that they can't charge me all of that money and interest. Does it make sense to you to give them that you pay back these loans in a way that benefits you instead of benefiting the bank? Now, I like the bank. They got to be able to borrow money, to leverage that money, to buy a house that's cash flowing. You better believe I like the bank. But I don't like the bank enough to give them retail. See, interest is nothing more than rent on your money. I don't like the bank enough to give them 100% of the money that they're asking for when I don't have to give them that to accomplish the same purpose. It just doesn't make sense to me. So if go ahead and click on that link to become. Now, if you are a real estate investor, and if you want to know how you can take a look at every one of your properties, okay? Take a look at every one of your properties and say, Don, I'm not interested in paying off the properties. What I'm interested in is I need to take my cash out, take my equity out, and redeploy it so that I can grow my real estate portfolio. Then how would you like to be able to cash out refi 10 to 15 years sooner? 10 to 15 years sooner. Take that money out and then redeploy it instead of waiting. Now look here. On this loan here, it is a $350,000 loan. If I wanted to take out $100,000 here out of this loan, look how long it takes me to pay it down. I'm using my rents I get from my tenant. I'm scrolling down here. It takes 179 months just to pay it down by $100,000. 179 months, okay? 180 months is 15 years. It takes nearly 15 years to pay it down so that I have $100,000 in equity. Now, I'm going to my equity will grow, hopefully, due to market conditions. I should be able to pay it down and my house should be able to appreciate. But even if it doesn't, it takes me 15 years to pay it down by $100,000. But that's not the important thing to look at. The important thing to look at is how much interest did I pay to pay it down to $100,000? That's what you have to take a look at, real estate investors. Even if you're not a real estate investor, you're a residential home buyer, you're still investing in your future. To pay this loan down by $100,000, all day it costs $275,000 if you have a 6% mortgage. Why would you do that? I don't know if a real estate investor, listen to this now. I don't know of a single real estate investor that has looked at, I'm going to take my equity out. I got $100,000 in equity. I don't know of a single real estate investor that ever looked at how much interest they've paid to get it here, because no one is teaching to look at interest cost on these loans. How much did it cost to manage the loan to this point to get your equity out to redeploy it so that you can purchase more doors? I've never heard any real estate investor talk about that. I think we should add that to the conversation. What about you? If you think interest cost, how much you're paying to manage these loans, if you think that's important, put a number 9 in the chat. Put a number 9 in the chat if you think that's important right now. Put a number 9 in. If you think And if you're watching us online, put it online. If you're watching us on YouTube or on Facebook, put a number 9 in the comment section if you think it's important that we should start paying attention to how much interest we're paying to manage these loans, especially if you're a real estate investor. Especially if you're a real estate investor. Stop looking at that because my tenants are giving me the money to pay these loans down. Stop putting yourself in a position where you're not caring about how much of that money went to interest. So if you're a residential home buyer, do you now care how much interest you're paying to pay off your house? Do you now care? Well, you should care. It shouldn't cost you $275,000 in interest just to pay this loan down by $100,000. Let's find a different way to grow our equity. Let's find a different way to be able to cash out refi and not give the bank 2 times what we're taking out and thinking that's a deal. All right, let me take a look. Brenda Jackson says number 9, we should do that. Anybody else? Anybody else think that we should do that? Listen, folks, this is going to be a short show today, but I wanted to share with you what is actually going on here with these numbers. Okay. Let me change my banners here. Okay. Let me change this stuff around. Okay. I need you to focus in on this while we're wrapping things up. For too many years, we've been told that these are cheap loans. They're not cheap loans. They're very expensive loans. 6% ain't 6% when you amortize it. So when you're amortizing it, you're paying every single month a certain amount of money, which is heavily weighted towards the banks in the beginning. So if you can save some of that interest money that they're looking for in the beginning, that means that if you didn't pay it, you have it to redeploy somewhere else. Now, somebody says, Don, I don't have that money in my pocket. When I prepay, I don't have money in my pocket. It didn't make me money. If I invest that money, now that money is making me money. I can add that to my store so that I could do something with it. Well, listen, folks, there's more than one way to increase profits. Charging more is one way to increase profits. Okay. Selling more is one way to increase profits. But don't discount the importance of lowering expenses to increase profits. If I was in the restaurant business and my food costs, if I can lower my food costs by 23%, it doesn't cost me as much. Does that mean I now have 23% more money without actually raising the price of my food or selling more food? I reduce the cost of buying the food. It increases profits. So anything that you do. So how many of you coupon? All right. You cut out a coupon. Okay. I'm going to save 50 cents on a can of soup and you feel good about that. Well, that's 50 cents you didn't have to spend. You can now redeploy that 50 cents to do something else. Okay. Are you a senior? Do you get your senior discounts when you go to the movies? Okay. You didn't pay that money, so redeploy it to do something else. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all I'm saying here. If you're a real estate investor and you can get the same equity, your equity becomes now a product. It becomes a commodity. How much principal pay down is a commodity. Now, how much are you paying for it? If I let the bank have their way, I got to pay them a lot of money just to pay my mortgage down by a little bit. Well, stop doing that. Start taking into account the fact that a penny saved is now worth 2 pennies earned. Why do I say 2 pennies earned? Because if you didn't pay it over here, you can now have more money to invest somewhere else. As real estate investors, you should start looking at long term. If I don't have to pay the bank that $200,000 in interest to accomplish the same goal, no, I take that back. Look at it this way. If I do have to pay the bank over $200,000, what is the opportunity cost on that $200,000 if I don't have it to invest at 8 or 9 or 10% over the next 20 years? What is the opportunity cost on not having that money that I could invest? It's huge. We're talking about millions and millions of dollars that are being thrown away because we're not paying attention to how much interest we're paying and calculating how much money we're losing by not having that money to invest somewhere else. So make your best deal on your property. Okay? Cash flow, your best deal on that property. Rehab the property correctly. Rent it out correctly. Do everything that you're supposed to do. But also start paying attention to how much interest you're paying and how much interest you can save. And then be intentional about taking that money that you save in interest and investing it in other doors, and do the calculation. How much interest will I make with that money that I was previously given to the bank, but I didn't have to give it to them? It is going to be huge. So, folks, I'm going to wrap this up. All right. I've got another comment here. Let me see here. Earl says, Leon Earl says number 9 as well. I want to thank everybody that showed up. Yeah, it wasn't clickbait. It wasn't a clickbait title today, but it's probably one of the most important shows I've ever done. And we all should be proud of it that came to the show, and we're now going to share this information. So if you are a real estate investor and you want to know more about what we're doing, go to ice10k.com and click on Get a Savings and Earnings Report. Here, I'm putting that on the screen. Get a savings and earnings report. Okay, fill it out. Okay, get your savings and earnings report, fill it out. Now, as you're filling it out, here's what you want to do. Remember, when you're putting your cell phone number in, put your cell phone number in, and then make sure there's no spaces. We're supplying you with the +1. Put your number in, your cell phone number in, right up against that +1 with no dots, no dashes, no spaces. So when you confirm that number, we're sending you a code as a text message. Take that code, put it back into the program, and then click confirm it. And then you can be let into our financial forum. By doing that, you can find out, put your information in, you can get a report that says, here's how much interest I'm going to save. Here is what I could do with that interest, how much money it's going to make for me. And if I'm looking at getting out of debt, you can know the month, day, and year you're going to be out of debt. If you're looking as a real estate investor, when will I be able to cash out refi? And pay attention to how much money I'm using to save interest and how much money I'm using to instantly start investing. Then we're going to help you to accomplish that balance so that you can have the right amount of money going to debt reduction or interest savings and the proper amount of money going to your investment to build your portfolio. So you can start making money on both ends. Stop thinking that saved money doesn't matter. It most certainly does matter. when you start deploying that saved money and you start seeing your net worth start to grow exponentially because of money that you didn't spend elsewhere. How many times have you heard, well, if you just take the money that you're spending on, you just take the money you're spending on Starbucks, on coffee, and put that into a real estate investment. If you just went out to dinner 2 times less, all right? So you go out to dinner 4 times a month. So if you went out to dinner 2 times a month, you can now take that money and redeploy it and invest it. How many times have we heard stuff like that? Okay. The money that you're spending over here to have fun, if you cut back on it just a little bit, you can invest it over here. We hear that all the time, but we never hear, you know that $100,000 you spend in interest? What if I could have showed you that you only had to pay $20,000 in interest? And now take that $80,000 you would have had to pay and now invest that. Nobody's talking about that except here at the P.I.L.L method. And even though not a lot of people showed up, I don't care. I don't care. What I care is that this information is out here permanently now, and people need to hear it. Stop giving the bank all of that money and invest it in your own well-being. Grow your own generational wealth. Grow your own portfolio. All right. Start putting away money for your children's children, your grandchildren. Start putting away that money and stop giving it to the banks. It is not necessary. And stop listening to those people who say, stop paying off. Don't worry about this. This is cheap money. This is cheap money. Do your math. Get with somebody that's going to help you to do the math. Okay. And so today's Wednesday, maybe Friday, we'll get into, on Friday's show, we'll talk about how we can use the math and take that money that we should have paid, we would have paid in interest, and invest that long term. Let's do some math according to along those lines. Okay. So folks, get your savings and earnings report. All right. Also, get your book. My book, go to ice10k.com. Go to ice10k.com. If you don't have the book, buy the book. And start understanding the basics of interest cancellation and how important it is. Get the book today. And also become an affiliate. All right? Become an affiliate right now. All right. So we're going to take a look at, let me see if I've got my affiliate stuff on here. All right. So what I'm going to do is share the screen. All right. We're going to share this screen. Okay. Share the screen here. We're going to take this off, take the book off. All right. Hide that, share the screen. And I'm going to put my 10K card up here, and I'm going to take you through becoming an affiliate. Okay. So let's put in ice10k.com. And if you're watching this online, okay, you can scroll down. Oh, here's all my buttons. You can buy the book here. You can become an affiliate here. So you click on this, and this is what you get. Put in your name, your full name, your phone number, and your email, and how you want to get paid. It's free. So become an affiliate. It's free. We will email you and tell you when the next affiliate training is going to be, which is going to be next week. Okay. We're sending that out. So become an affiliate today. Then once you're an affiliate, and so we're going to go back. Once you're an affiliate, then you're also going to get a card like this, a 10K card. And then when you get that affiliate, then you can get you'll have a button on your card that says you can refer a friend. And we're going to show you the training on all of that. As you refer a friend, you click that, and then you put in that person's name that wants to manage their debt differently, a lot better, save tons of interest, and make more money for their family and pay off their debt sooner. Okay. You put in their name, their phone number, you put in their email address, okay, their zip code, and you put in who referred them. You put in your name and your number, okay, and give us any other information about them, and then click submit. We get that, and then we move them through the process in helping them to become a client. And when they become a client, if they owe $100,000 in debt or more, and they become a client, we'll pay you $300. Anywhere from $300 to $3,000 a month you can earn by helping to share this information out to other people. And it costs you nothing to sign up as an affiliate. There's nothing to sell. All you have to do is point people to our YouTube channel, let them watch a few videos, follow up with them in a couple of days, and ask them if they want more information. If they do, fill this out and send it to us. We take it from there. Our whole staff is on this thing like white on rice. So we'll take care of that for you. And once they become a client, we pay you. All right. So any questions about what we have? I'm looking at my comments here, seeing what we have. All right. Jody says, "Hi, Don. I'm interested in becoming an affiliate." Thank you, Jody. So go to ice10k.com. Let me put this in the chat. ice10k.com. There it is in the chat. Okay. I'm also going to take a look at the banners. Let me see here. Scan the code. There's a banner. Okay, let me see if this. Yep, there it is. Visit ice10k.com. I have it scrolling across the bottom of the screen. Okay, and start the process. Visit ice10k.com to start the process so that you can become an affiliate. All right. All right. Thank you, Jody. All right. Let me put your. This is what Jody's McClure says. "Hi, Don. I'm interested in becoming an affiliate." We'll do that. Do exactly that. So, folks, I want to thank everybody here. If you're new to the room, don't forget to follow me as a moderator. Also, go up to the top and click on P.I.L.L Method and join the house. All right. If you're online, all right, follow us on Facebook and also subscribe to the YouTube channel. All right. Jody says, thank you. She's watching us on Facebook, ladies and gentlemen. So join our Facebook page, and we have a Facebook group as well. The Facebook, you can look up the Facebook group under A Better Way to Eliminate Debt. A Better Way to Eliminate Debt is our Facebook group. And we're going to be sharing information with all of you there as well. I want to thank everybody for showing up today. All right. And I hope that this has been beneficial. And we straightened some things out, especially for those who have been taught that a 6% mortgage, anything you prepay on a 6% mortgage is only saving you 6%. Ladies and gentlemen, that couldn't be further from the truth. Couldn't be further from the truth. You're saving thousands upon thousands, tens of thousands, and even hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest if you do it right. But that doesn't keep you from investing other monies to make more money at the same time. You come up with a plan that's going to help you to do both. Well, let's get out of here. I want to thank you for being here. I'm taking a look at anybody have any questions or comments? None? That's it. I want to make sure I cover everything. So I'm going to be back here on Friday. We're going to have a brand new show up. We're going to show the how easy it is. What I showed today can be very complicated, especially if you're using a calculator trying to figure out all of these things on your own. We've actually built an opportunity cost calculator that does all of the work for you. So let's talk about that, how we can use the opportunity cost calculator that we put together to make more money, to save more money, to build wealth. Okay, let's talk about it on Friday. What time is during the week? It is 7 a.m. Central and 8 a.m. Eastern during the week. On Sundays, We're here at 8 Central and 9:30 Eastern. But you can always catch the replays if you happen to miss it. Every show we have, it's up permanently on Clubhouse for the audio, or if you like the visuals, you can go to YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, all right, to get the same information. So thank you for asking that question. What time? All right. Thank you, Colin, for that. All right. Anything else? Okay. Colin says, thanks. I appreciate that, ladies and gentlemen. So let's get out of here. We're going to hear from Eric Thomas, and the number one motivational speaker in the world who's used the P.I.L.L method to pay off his loan and made his wife feel much better. And you say, now, somebody who makes that kind of money, why would they ever need the P.I.L.L method? Because it's not about paying off the money. It's not about paying off a mortgage fast. It's about paying it off cheap. You want to deploy your money in such a way that you're optimizing your interest savings. And you can only do that with specific amounts of money. You never want to put more money than you need to into interest cancellation or debt reduction. Don't put too much money over here, because the reason why and I'll talk about that more on Friday. It's called the law of diminished return. So don't violate the law of diminished return by putting too much on. So that's what I'm going to call the show. Okay. When does more become too much? So something like that. So we're going to give you some idea about how to save them, how to make more money, how to save more money by being strategic with your money. That's what you need to do. So save more, make more, but keep your expenses low. Okay. Okay. You don't need a lot of money to save a lot of money in interest. You don't need a lot of money to make money in real estate or in any other investment. You just need to do it right. And that's what we're going to be going over on Friday. How to optimize the use of your money so that you can be more efficient. Okay. Does that make sense? All right, great. All right, so let me get this up here. We're going to hear from Eric Thomas, and we're going to say goodbye until next time. All right, pulling this up. All right, let me see here. All right. Strategic Secret says that's a good word. All right, thank you, Strategic Secrets, who's watching us on YouTube. So let me pull this up, and we're going to hear from Dr. Eric Thomas as we say goodbye for today. All right, let me see here. Where's our video? There it is. See you guys on Friday. Bye-bye.
Listen to me, y'all. But one of his mentees took us through one of their programs, and I paid off my mortgage. But guess what happened? My marriage went to a whole nother level. And you know why? Because my wife is a security freak. And even when I blew up, my wife would be like, oh, you blew up, but how long is you gonna keep making this kind of money? I was like, I don't know, forever. She's like, you sure? Because I'm gonna keep my license as a nurse just in case you don't. So when I paid the house off, my boy was like, you ain't gotta do that, you can do this. But when I paid the house off using that program, it took the stress level all the way down from my wife because we no longer had a mortgage. Does that make sense? That thing that was coming every month, that was getting on her nerves, we didn't have that no more. And so she was at rest.